This is Jason Kanigan from Make Space Boring News. I am here with Dr. Andy Aldrin, and it's been great catching up with him. We had a quick call last week, and we're doing this now because I want to get an update from him to share with you about what happened with the commercial space program that isu-fit runs. So we had to make a number of changes, obviously, in order for you to be able to run this program over the summer with COVID. And I remember talking in the spring, you know, it was like, oh, I don't know how this is going to work out. So, but I had several students connect with me over the period and tell me how great it was. And they're all good people, and I had long conversations with them. So that was very cool.
Yeah,
so
I can't do anything about changing their grades at this point, so.
It's too late now. But I'd like to hear directly from you what you changed, you know, what the gulp factor was, I guess, in going into this iteration and how things turned out.
Yeah, so it's been an interesting summer. You know, I think when we talked before, going into April, we weren't sure if we're going to be able to do anything. And because it was just, everything was kind of up in the air. Florida Tech was trying to understand what they were going to do. Every university in the nation was wrestling with this, you know, and frankly, from their perspective, summer programs, they weren't really paying a lot of attention. But so we got clearance to go ahead with a program that we had redesigned, and what we came on, and it worked out really well. What we came up with was kind of a hybrid, because we all feel really strongly about the value of students getting together, working together, and in particular being in Florida, you know, where everybody comes for launches. And so we're trying to preserve that as much as possible. And so what we came up with was something where first we stretched the program out to cover 10 weeks, which is basically the full summer session. So in a sense, that was a little bit of a change from our fundamental philosophy before, which was to compress things as much as possible, to kind of ramp up the intensity and make it a little bit more like a startup environment, a little bit more like a proposal. So that was one change we made. The other was we did the first 8 weeks online, and our hope was that we could take 2 weeks in Florida. And we were real clear with everyone that we're going to make a decision at the end of June as to whether or not Florida was practical. And at the end of June in Florida, it was not pretty. I mean, the cases were going up exponentially. We were seeing really high hospitalizations, and the whole idea of getting everyone together in that intense an environment wasn't realistic. And you know, the visitor complex didn't actually open until well into June. I mean, they were in fact open, and so we went with an online program, a fully online program, and it worked out really, really well. And it kind of, it changed my thinking about online education, because I had, you know, if you talked to me a year ago, 6 months ago, I would have said, I think online is great, and it can, you know, can be flexible and things like that. But you can't get the experience. And I've changed my mind a lot, because, you know, for a class size of maybe 20, 25, you really can pay attention to what's going on with everyone and keep their attention. And, you know, you put them all on a screen and you can see them all. And the rule is, you know, you stay on screen. You stay, if you're not on screen, I assume you just bailed out of the class for the day. And they were remarkably resilient, because, you know, every day we're doing a 3-hour lecture. You know, we're still within the space of 10 weeks, completing 4 courses. And so there were a couple of things that just were really eye-opening for me. First, going online enabled students to participate who probably couldn't have flown and, you know, gone to Florida, regardless of what the conditions were. Couldn't have taken 6 weeks out of their lives, gone to Florida, rented an apartment or whatever kind of housing we arranged for them. We were actually going to put people up at the dorms, but for 6 weeks. And, you know, it makes it impossible for someone who's got a job, you know, to do both those at the same time, because for 6 weeks it's super intensive, and you just can't do it. And one of the things we found was we got a tremendous number of students applying from all over the world. and really, really qualified students. And so we had 3 students from Africa, 3 students, I think, from Europe. We had a student from Sri Lanka. There were only 2 Florida Tech students. And so it gave us access to a much, much broader range of students. And the students, there were several students that were holding down full-time jobs while doing this. You know, they made whatever arrangements to spend 3 hours a day online. And I don't know how, you know, they did all of their work and all of the work we gave them, because it was a lot of work. I mean, you're developing business pitches, you're kind of designing businesses, you're doing, you know, kind of detailed analyses of national space programs, you're doing detailed analyses of space markets. And, you know, there's a lot of additional work beyond just attending the class and doing the readings and all that kind of stuff. But they did phenomenally well. And so I was really, really happy with the students that we got. And I think going online makes the program accessible to a much larger number of students. So that was the first thing. The second thing was that it gave us access to many more speakers than we would have had. You know, last year, the summer before this summer, we brought in a lot of speakers, and we had, I think, a total of 17, 18 speakers come into Florida and do face-to-face talks. There were a couple that came in remotely, but most of them were there. This time, I don't know what the total number was, but it was over 20, and it was literally a case where we had way more people that were interested in talking to our class than we could possibly accommodate, and still, you know, do the things that we needed to do to cover all of the things that we need to cover in order to meet the educational objectives, because this is part of the Florida Tech curriculum. We've got to do things to meet the accreditation standards. And so, you know, we would, for each one of the classes, we try and do 2 or 3 guest lectures a week, but that's about it. But anyway, the people that we got, the quality of people was just fantastic. And so those 2 things, you know, really made me a believer that that there's a lot you can do with online. I don't think it replaces face-to-face. And what we would really like to do in the future is, I think, go to the model that we originally came in with, not originally, the Plan B, right? And any good business, any good business school will teach you that most startups, and then we are a startup. This is every bit an entrepreneurial activity, creating this educational program. Most startups end up going to Plan B. And so maybe that's what we're doing here. But I think that the hybrid approach of doing 8 weeks online and then 2 weeks in Florida is a great approach. So we're going into next year pitching that approach. And I think we're going to get a great reaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I'm really glad to hear that first of all, the program ran at all, and second of all, that it opened up your mind that online learning can be more than just a one-way sort of television set broadcasting,
right.
You know, methodology. So that's very cool. And for folks who don't know anything about this program, I will link to a video that we shot earlier this year in the description below, where we talk all about it, and we've got a student member on there who was helping out with promoting and organizing the thing. And that should tell you all about it. But if you're interested in learning about how to make space, commercial space specifically, work, dealing with folks like Chad Anderson at Space Angels, venture capitalists in that business, not just dry business plans, but like actual, how is this going to really work sort of things. This program, before this year even, had some great reviews. I always heard great things about it. And it's a rare bird. I don't think there's a lot out there like this at all. I talked to a lot of people. I really haven't heard anything like it out there. And so your connection with the money, you know, the venture capitalists and investors, the industry people, your own personal history, and through International Space University and Florida Tech, that's a great combination, I think. So what can people do If they're hearing this and they're like, oh, that happened, wow, I'd like to get in on next year's list, what do they have to do? Do they have to wait? Should they watch somewhere? Should they get on a list?
So I think the best thing to do is to go to ISU-CSE .fit.edu, and that'll get, just look up ISU CSE.
Okay, I'll link to that in the description. That's cool.
Send them a link. We will be coming out real soon with all our plans and our recruitment for next summer, and we're going to do the basic framework is going to be, kind of what I talked about, but we're going to do some things a little differently. We're going to learn a lot. I mean, I have now learned a tremendous amount, in no small part due to the feedback from the students who said, this worked and this really didn't work. And so it's going to be a great program. We're going to kind of figure out what dates to target, and we can't promise that there'll be a launch during the time we're in Florida, but the way things are going in Florida, I mean, this next week, we've got 3 launches in 3 days out of the gate. It's kind of incredible, all the stuff that's going on there. Anyway, so that'll be the way to do it. That'll be the way to get in touch. You'll find out. And, Jason, we should probably do some things to get it out there, and we'll be getting it out on social media and all that kind of good stuff as well.
Right. Yep. And come on back to talk with me about it when that happens. And this isn't just for 20-something graduate students who are about to enter the workforce either. I personally have talked with several old fuddy-duddies like me in their 40s and 50s and that who want to go and take this program and say, oh, geez, I should do that, and want to find out more about the business side of space. Well, Dr. Andy Aldrin, thanks for doing this.
Hey, this is my pleasure, Jason. It's always great talking with you, and really, really appreciate your support. So you ought to come down and visit us in Florida this year.
I will. It's on my list. Thanks.
Excellent.